I like the vibe that filming in a car at night gives. I think it's a very like silent, meditative vibe. It's like you know, I don't know what to describe it, but a lot of people complain that these style of videos are too schizo or weird or whatever because they don't really understand that it's like supposed to be humorous, right? They don't get the idea that the humor is in the absurdity of all the things that I say that are both very true, but also absurd to hear. I want to take a moment to kind of talk about this because we're going to have a bit of a stream of consciousness for this video, which I think is very important because I think a lot of people don't think anymore. And it's not that they're not like unaware of how to think, but I think people don't like to think because they think there's something wrong with thinking, right? Which is true in a very limited way. So a lot of people say, "Oh, don't think too much." They say, "Don't think too much because this makes you crazy," or you start like thinking weird thoughts, or you start like noticing things or whatever. And this is like the good thing about thinking, right? Like none of the world's problems, and I'm gonna really like double this down for you guys. Zero, absolutely zero of the world's problems, not one, zero problems in the world have ever been caused by overthinking, right? Like no one who sat down and taken the moment to say, "Hey, let me think about this for a little bit. Let me take a few more minutes to think about this." That has never caused problems, okay, ever. That has never caused problems. So when someone says to you, "Oh, don't think too much, don't overthink it," usually what they're trying to tell you is one of two things. They're trying to tell you, stay dumb, like don't engage, stay dumb, stay blindfolded to a certain degree, or they're telling you that the thoughts you're thinking of, like the thoughts that you're in loop on, aren't helping you. And that's true. Like if you're thinking the same thing over and over and over again, you're not thinking. This is more of a description of not thinking, right? Because so like if someone said, "Oh, you're thinking too much," but they're just looping the same thought, they're actually not thinking, right? They're not thinking too much. They're not thinking at all. Okay. So that's usually what people mean by that. Now, with all of that in mind, I want us to move through this with love and grace and faith, and knowing that our guide is Jesus Christ, right? So, as chaotic as that opening was, I lost some of you, I'm certain. This is why, right? Like, this is a filter. The chaotic mess that is sometimes the way I speak is a filter for people who are not listening. People who focus on this, like the way of speaking or the chaotic mess, they're not listening. They're deaf, dumb, and blind. There's something wrong with them, inherently wrong with them, right? The people who can hear that and they're like, "Oh, that's funny. There's something here. There's something interesting. I definitely want to know more or hear more, or there's something interesting here." Those people are going to not be more receptive. I think they're gonna like have that air of like, "Oh, this guy's crazy. I don't care what he says." But they're definitely more aware of the meta of what I'm doing than the people who just take things at face value and think that has any weight, right? Because people will say, "Oh, it's the way you say things," and it's like that has no weight on what's being said, right? So let's think about this. Sometimes when a guy sits around and he just thinks for a while, thinks about his life, he gets very lonely. He feels very lonely. And sometimes a guy will even tell his friends, "Hey guys, I'm very lonely. There's something wrong." They can feel there's something inherently wrong. This is who I want to talk to. I want to talk to this guy who is very lonely. And who doesn't really know how to navigate it, but also doesn't really know what's wrong, right? Like they know something's wrong, but they don't know what's wrong. Okay, so I remember when I was lonely and I would tell my friends, I would say, "Oh man, guys, I'm so lonely. I need to get a girlfriend, or I need to go out and meet people. I need to do something." And they would tell me things like, "You have to learn to be comfortable alone." They'd say that. You have to learn to be comfortable on your own, totally alone in solitude, and not need somebody. That's what they would say. These people are lying to you. Okay, that's not the problem. That's not the problem at all. And I've spent a lot of time alone, becoming comfortable being alone, to tell you that's not the problem. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to say. Sorry, I'm drinking water. It's like really dry out, so my throat's getting dried out. That's the first thing I want to say. Let's box that, put it over here, right? Because I know this is like going to get really chaotic and random. Let's take this and box it over here. We're going to talk about something different now, okay? This other thing we're going to talk about, people don't realize that loneliness is healthy. It's hard to describe this. So the feeling of loneliness is deadly, right? We know this is not healthy. The feeling of extended loneliness, of being alone, is so deadly. Like, you can look this up. Like, so many more men die from loneliness than like anything else, right? Feeling lonely is probably more deadly than smoking, right? Like, if you smoke cigarettes to deal with your loneliness, that is definitely healthier than sitting and feeling lonely, okay? So feeling lonely is a death sentence. You are dying. You are in a slow free fall. You are in a tar pit. There's a black worm swallowing you up, okay? That's death. The feeling of loneliness is death. But to be lonely is healthy and human. So now let's talk about this difference, okay? So we had the first one where people say, learn to be comfortable being alone. They're lying to you. Then you have the people saying that being lonely is deadly, which is true, but not the fullness of truth. So now we're going to talk about this third thing. This may not apply to women as much. I think there's something different about women. I don't know what it is. I think the Bible kind of describes this. You know, Eve was made for Adam. Adam wasn't made for Eve. There's something about women that makes them predisposed to not care, to like be lonely, and to disregard this. Like, they think that like they're totally okay being alone. There's something spiritually dead about this that they cannot acknowledge. Like, there's something built into them that doesn't have this drive. Men are profoundly more lonely. And this is natural. I don't know how to describe this, so I'm going to use like sex as a metaphor, but this is not about sex, okay? But this is like the best way I can describe it. A man's sex drive is healthy and normal, right? Like, if a guy had no sex drive, there's something wrong with him. There's something unhealthy about it. If a man is like not attracted to women, doesn't have some attraction to women, then there's something wrong with him, right? There's something unhealthy, something messed up with his development. There's some problem that he has, right? The problem with this, so people think, oh, attraction and sex drive is like a sin. This is not true, right? Like, it's when you start lusting and doing crazy stuff, that's when it becomes a sin. But these things are like healthy and natural, and they're a sign of like being human. If you didn't have this, like, men wouldn't have children, right? They wouldn't date women. They wouldn't have children with them. They wouldn't sleep with them. There would be like no other humans, right? So this thing is very human. It's very healthy. It's very natural. You know, the Lord kind of talks about this thing of the male attraction to the female, right? Even Adam, when he first sees Eve, he's like ecstatic, right? Now, it's the same way with loneliness. If you didn't feel lonely, there would be something severely wrong with you. So when you feel lonely, this is healthy. This is like the best way to describe this metaphor. When you feel lonely, you can like rest assured, right, that you are a healthy human being. That's not the problem, right? Your loneliness and your emotions around loneliness, that's not the problem. That's normal and natural. Okay. So why do people feel lonely? Why do men feel lonely? I don't know about women. Sometimes I think women never feel lonely. Sometimes I think they just want things. But so let's talk about male loneliness, because this is what I know. I don't know female loneliness, okay? I'm sure they have loneliness, but it's like totally different. Men, or sorry, let me take a moment to go back. Okay, so now let's go back to the first box, right? So the people who say, learn to be comfortable alone. Now we can see why there's something wrong with these people, right? People will say things like, oh, you're suffering from loneliness, you feel very lonely. Learn to be comfortable in solitude. Really, they're saying, learn to not feel lonely. Be in such a state that when you're in solitude with no one around you, you don't crave other people. This is death. This is spiritual death. This is a sickness. Don't believe this. Please, don't believe this. I can't emphasize enough. I cannot stress enough that people who are telling you this, they're liars. They're lying. It's a lie. Okay? It's a lie. Don't believe this thing. This will kill you. It will absolutely harm you spiritually. It will destroy your walk with God. It will make your union with God impossible. Okay? I cannot stress that enough. So, let me, sorry, I keep wanting to give a side metaphor and I get distracted and I keep laughing and thinking. So if I laugh randomly, it's because I'm thinking about other stuff that makes it funny. I'm trying not to do that because people keep saying that I sound crazy when I do that. So let's be super serious, guys. We gotta put our serious faces on, guys. Let's take off our silly masks and be super serious. No whimsicality, no mirth, boys. Okay, sorry. Sorry. Okay. So then we realize, okay, when we're alone and we feel lonely, there's nothing wrong with loneliness. That feeling is very human, it's very good, and exists for a reason. The reason is because there's something in our spirit that knows we cannot be alone, that we need other people. Something about our spirit dies, right? It's like how man is made in the image of God. So God is many persons of one, essence, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You cannot have love without other people. Okay, you can't. You cannot have love without other people. So this is like God is many persons. Well, of course, that's what love is. It's like the love of the Father to the Son. It's like the purest form of love, right? That's love. So when you're alone and you are alone and you have this pain, you feel loneliness, really that is a craving to love, to be loved, to be in union with God. Because God is love. So when you crave love, and when you crave to love, and when you crave to be loved, these are things that you're craving of God. You are craving God. Okay. So let's take that moment to think about that. And this is all stuff you can meditate on, these thoughts that I'm throwing your way, that I'm emphasizing and throwing your way. Because I'm making this video for one person in particular. When I make these videos, I always make them with the idea that there's someone I'm talking to, that I personally know, okay? So I know who's watching this. I'm not going to say their name, and I know that they need to hear this. That's why I make these videos. And if it feels like I'm talking in a sporadic, really anxiety-inducing way, it's because I want to get across that this is very important. And if you do not listen, or if you do not understand what I'm saying, you are going to spiritually die, okay? So this is why I'm doing this, right? This is all a part of the message, okay? So now we can calm down. So now that we got that first message down, let's calm down. Let's take a moment just to think. Okay. So what's the problem? What's the problem people want you to solve? A lot of people who are alone and feel lonely, even though they want to be loved, even though they make so much effort to be with another person. And this is true, by the way. I know a lot of you guys want to say, oh, no, they don't make any effort. They don't try. That's why they're alone. Trust me. I know someone personally who is, he's not going to be offended by this, so don't be offended. But, he's slow of intellect. He's ugly. He is kind of a little, out there. He's a good guy, but, he's just strange. Okay, I know this person. He's very strange. And and he puts so much effort into talking to women, or trying to talk to anybody, not just women, sitting at a food court in a mall, going to bookstores, just trying to engage. Like he's the kind of guy that if you're sitting on a bus across from him, he'll say like, "Oh, where are you going? Like, why? How's it? And he's very charming. His problem is that he's just ugly, right? He's ugly and of slow intellect, so that kind of creates like a communication barrier. But he's trying very hard, and I pray for him always. Okay, so there are people like this that are lonely, and that's healthy. And they try hard to love and be loved, and that's good. And yet there's no one who loves them. They try their best, and their best isn't enough. And they're alone, and they're in pain. These people, and I cannot stress this enough, this is a deep meditation on loneliness. So if you feel this struggle and you feel this pain and you feel like you want to cry, even not for yourself, even just for someone else, that's good. Think about these things. Don't just say, oh, you're thinking too much and it's too painful. People sit down and they think and they realize how lonely they are. And people say, stop thinking. Don't feel lonely. Feel lonely, brother. Sit there, feel it. Feel the pain. Push it so that you do more to love. That you do more to love others and to be loved. I want you to know that yes, your loneliness is killing you. And no, brother, you shouldn't sit there and say, I want to not feel lonely. I want to be comfortable in solitude. Don't do that. That is spiritual death. And this is the hardest part about being Christian. This next thing that I tell you will be the hardest thing that you will bear as a Christian. Brother, I tell you to be lonely, to bear your cross, and in this pain, serve it up to God. Say to the Lord, Lord, I will never stop my feelings of loneliness. I will never distract myself. I will never push it away or push it down. I will use it to love others, even if it kills me. I will use it always. And when I die from this thing, I die for you, Lord, to love. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you something different. I wish I could say, oh, no, just sit down and give a good prayer and you won't feel lonely anymore. Brother, you'll sit down and you'll give a prayer and you'll feel so lonely. You'll feel like the Lord isn't even listening to you, that he's not even there, but he is there. But you'll feel like he's not. But let me tell you this, brother. When you pray, we don't pray for feelings. We don't sit there and say, Lord, give me courage, and you try to feel courageous. You don't sit there and say, Lord, give me faith, and you try to feel like you have a lot of faith. You say, Lord, give me this great test, and I will bear my cross. Brother, I know the pain that you feel. I'm sorry, and I wish I could tell you something different, but it's the truth. Please be strong. Love God. Love others. Bear your suffering. The Lord is a silversmith. You are his silver. He puts you in the fire, and that fire removes all your impurities. Don't ever stop feeling lonely. Don't ever stop wanting to love. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.